Hi there, I'm Bevan Thompson and welcome to the Wellbeing Whizz Omnicast. What is an Omnicast? Well, an Omnicast is a video podcast. It's also an audio podcast. It's also a blog on my website. It's many, many things. It's more than just a podcast, basically. And I'm the Wellbeing Whizz. I'm an anxiety coach who helps people manage their anxiety and start to live a better life. Now, what qualifies me for this, you're asking? Well, I used to suffer very badly from anxiety myself around maybe 10 years ago. I had all the symptoms you could think of, the sort of sweaty palms, the dizzy head, the random thoughts, racing thoughts. It turned to depression. It was essentially a living nightmare. And I spent a long time with doctors going through things like hypnotherapy. I tried tablets. I tried a lot of the different solutions. And I found the only thing that helped me was starting to go back to the start, work out how my thoughts worked, work out how they were creating my emotions, how I was creating this anxiety. And what I did, I created a framework and kind of cured myself. That led on to me thinking, hang on a minute, other people should benefit from this, and the Wellbeing Whizz was born. I set up as a coach, helping people manage their anxiety and helping them live a better life, as I say. The Omnicast every week is about sharing tips about this, interviewing other people about their anxiety, me talking about ways to understand anxiety and how to cure it, and essentially just a place where you can learn more about anxiety itself and sort of sharing a lot of people's experience with it. Welcome to the Wellbeing Whizz Omnicast episode 32. I'm Bevan Thompson, your host, known as the Wellbeing Whizz. And today I've got a fabulous guest for you. Her name is Ali Skanderowicz. I've been practicing that over and over again. She is an alternative therapist and she's great fun. Hi, Ali, how are you?
Hello.
So yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and having a chat with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And tell us a little bit about yourself first before we start. What you do and where you're from, and sound like a Cilla Black on Blind Date. What's your name and where do you come from?
Oh, where do I come from? It's always been an interesting one because lots of people ask me where I am because I live in Manchester, but I haven't got a Mancunian accent. So I was born in Brighton and then I slowly travelled my way up to the country to where my grandparents and my mum was actually born in Manchester. So I'm up here now. What do? I do reflexology, I do Indian head, I do Reiki healing, and I do life coaching, which has become more and more prominent now. The Reiki reflexology and the life coaching pretty much 9 times out of 10 all becomes one when I see my clients. So that's what I do. And I started Reiki probably in 2014, not probably, definitely. And then went on to reflexology in 2017. But I actually took 3 years from starting my Reiki training to become a Reiki master, which I always like to point out because I know you can do a Reiki course over a weekend and do level 1, level 2, level 3 really quickly. But I would always advise anyone who's going for a Reiki session to find someone that's done it for quite a long time, because that is how you become a Reiki therapist, in my eyes.
It's amazing. Reiki, I've had it once with a friend who was, I think she was studying, so had to do so many practice sessions, I think, possibly.
Right, good.
And I had it, it's incredible. Wow. Because I'd heard about it and I've got a real big interest in these kind of things, but I'd never had it before. And it was like, the connection I felt with her afterwards, like a very sort of nice, friendly, lovely connection was nice. That was a really good thing. And then how I felt, incredible. I felt really good. And yeah, I would advise everyone to give it a crack. Definitely. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. And everybody will have a different experience. And every Reiki practitioner is different as well in the way they do it.
Right.
From what I've seen. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll have people will be lying down having Reiki and they'll be absolutely fast asleep. I've had others that will be hysterically giggling because they're releasing that emotion. And I also have people that sob and really, really releasing. So it's very difficult to explain how it works without being a bit crazy, actually. But it's just amazing. And you have to just try it to understand it, to see how it makes you feel. So yeah, I love it.
Something I would definitely suggest people go and especially for things like, it just made me feel so, I can't even describe how I felt after it. I just felt whole and complete and happy and all these kind of weird emotions that at the time I was struggling to find. I had it when I was particularly anxious, and it really helped me out. And I don't know, I just can't explain
how I felt. But yeah, it's not great for a podcast, me waffling on about how I felt. So as you know, this podcast is about anxiety. It's what I do. It's guys I work with. I try and help people manage their anxiety, learn about their anxiety, try and sort of conquer it and get over it. What does the word anxiety mean to you, to Ali, as a person or as a practitioner?
Yeah, probably the same, actually. Same answer for both of my people.
My split personality.
It's control. Yeah, my split personality. I would say it's control. Because no matter who I speak to, and I've heard other people say fear, but quite often we're scared because we don't know what's going to happen. We're out of control. So I think I would say it's control. When we don't know what we're doing, or when we have to rely on something else and we don't have control, that's when I think anxiety kicks in, which is a lot of the time for a lot of people.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And when I work with people as well, a lot of the things is it's teaching people that there are things out there that you can't control. They know that, but it's kind of reinforcing that. I mean,
most of life.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest problem was I was in the conference and events industry. I controlled every element of the conference, right? Because to make sure it worked. But then you try and translate that to outside your working life and try and control every element of the world, and you can't. And that you say, when you feel out of control, that's when the unknown kicks in. That's when the things you can't stop happening, and that's when you get anxious. It's a great answer, to be honest, and different from ones I've had before. I like that.
Oh, that's good.
I like to be different. So is there a time when you particularly personally suffered from anxiety, or is it something that doesn't bother you because of the practices you've got?
I think everybody suffers from anxiety.
Yep.
And I think it would be bizarre if I said no. I think that I don't know anyone that doesn't have or have had anxiety. And if they haven't, they've probably not admitted it to themselves or to anybody else, because we live in a fast-moving world. So yeah, I think I've certainly had it, and at different levels. From that moment when you're thinking, God, am I going to get to the meeting on time? I'm not in control because the traffic's in my way, so I'm going to be late, and that's anxious, and that can cause anxiety. And all the little bits that sounds so petty, but it's little things like that continue to build and build and build that can then become a bigger thing. So
absolutely.
Me personally, definitely
fear of not getting somewhere is so, like say, so minor, but your body and your it's almost reacting as if it's something major, as if it's something life-threatening and dangerous. And they're the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? The cycles it's kicking off are the things that are very innate in us. Like I'll explain, like the fight or flight response is kicking off.
Absolutely.
Minor, but it's affecting you in the same way as if something was major. And
and I think that's really important to talk about the minor things, because they're not necessarily minor to the person who's got to deal with it. And I think if you're already a bit stressed, or you're feeling, a bit emotional, then these minor bouts of anxiety actually just build into a bigger one. And we just go, oh, it's only something silly, I shouldn't get so het up about it. And then we beat ourselves up. So it makes our feelings actually even worse. And if we're not sort of accepting that, oh yeah, I'm okay to feel like this is normal, and realizing that you aren't in control, so there's nothing you can do, and just accepting it, then we're just going to build it and build it and build it. And I've had a really interesting one recently with a client where control was huge. Like you said, when you've been in a working environment, and I used to be in a very structured, sales motivated, stressful career. Definitely felt anxiety there when you've got a team of people that you're not in control with. But this particular client was very controlling in her lifestyle, and her anxiety built so much that the best thing she could do was let go. And one exercise that we did was working on a to-do list, because that to-do list was so big and it was always on the shoulder going, you've got me to do, you've got me to do, you've got me to do. And then you're feeling anxiety, knowing you're never going to get through all of that. So it was working that to-do list to actually go, I'm not going to do that today, or I'm just going to do that one thing because I can, and I don't have to worry about the rest. And all of a sudden you put yourself in control of your to-do list, not having your to-do list in control of you.
I was talking to a client about this morning. It's where the power lies. It's like whether you're giving the power to the to-do list or you're taking the power for yourself. And it's like a lot of anxiety is the power is going to the outside agent, the problem, the circumstance, the worry, rather than the power is with you to decide and to choose whether that worry is going to affect you, whether that worry is important is the wrong word, but whether that worry is impacting on your life right now, or it's just a what if, or it's just a potential thought in the future. Oh, you know what? I love it when people sing from the same hymn sheet as me. We've gone for hours. It's great. So when you have these moments of anxiety, and whether they're big or small, what's the hardest part of them for you or for clients you've experienced? Like a lot of people, like, is it the physical sensation, or is it more the mental side, or is it a mixture of both?
So again, I would say every single person is different. Yes. Every single person. I think I've seen people that start to actually suffer physical pain. We have that tightening of the chest. You know, if our solar plexus, that ganglion of nerves in our diaphragm, where we hold a lot of anxiety, you know, we can feel that as a physical pain, where it's just our thoughts and our inner voice continuously worrying about things that might not happen or we're not in control of. And then we tighten up. So, you know, it can be physical pain. It can be right inside our gut. It can be across our chest because our adrenal gland's going to overpump. We're going to get those heart palpitations.
Absolutely.
Breathe deeply. So our muscles are actually going to tighten. We're going to hold our shoulders because we're protecting ourselves because we're so anxious. We're going to get shoulder neck pain, headaches. So there's loads of physical stuff. And then the mental stuff is massive. You know, we talk a lot about meditation, especially in my working world, but actually to meditate's almost impossible if you're suffering from severe anxiety, because the first thing you've got to do when you meditate is calm your mind.
Yes. I remember
that you can't do when you're anxious is calm your mind.
I remember trying, people saying, oh, meditate, it's going to be great for you. Like 14, 15 years ago when I was at my very worst, and they were like, the first thing to do, clear. I'm like, clear my, have you spent 10 seconds inside? It's like the M1 in there. There's things going, they're like a chimp running around chucking stuff about. There's no way I can calm my mind. And actually what helped me was I watched a program about the Beatles, and I'm a Beatles obsessive. And it was George Harrison talking about how the Maharishi gave him a mantra to stick to, and how he, when his mind wandered, he came back to that mantra. And it opened up a whole world for me, because I was like, I'm not clearing my mind, I'm focusing on one thing. And that's what changed it for me. That's the moment I went,
And if you think about it, that's what meditation is. It's just to focus the mind. And, you know, again, everybody's different. And I think that's really important that I always try and emphasize, because I'll give somebody a breathing focus to take home with them. And it might just be to focus on their breath, the rise and fall of their chest, the flow of the waves. They can do visualization, but that might not work for everybody.
No, because if you told me to focus on my breath, I'd be terrified I wasn't breathing enough, whether I was breathing shallow enough. So the first two things they said was focus on your breath and clear your mind. I'm like, that's me done. You're right.
And so and then you just put a pressure on yourself, and then you think you can't do something, so you're not in control of it, so then your anxiety increases. So I think, you know, trying to be kind to yourself, and that's actually one of the things my first ever Reiki master in 2014 said to me: be kind to yourself. Because when I started my training, one thing I had to do was I did 6 months of meditation and breathing focuses. And it really was difficult at first, but then you find out how to sink it in. And every time I got that one, I then did a different type of meditation or breathing focus to learn how to be calm and in that moment, which is the best way to manage anxiety.
This is the big key, the living in the now, living in the moment. I always say people with anxiety live in the future. They live in the potential future, not even the actual future. And it's that kind of shifting the focus to the now, shifting the focus to, I always liken it to a game of cards. You know, play the cards that are in your hand. Don't try and work out what's going to come out the deck and possibly come around the table. It's like, you've got your cards. They're the ones you should be focusing on, not the potential outcomes of the game as it plays out. And you're right, that living in the now, and I don't know how we've got onto this, but it's it probably segues quite nicely into the next question, how you manage to control anxiety. So I presume it's through things like meditation and...
Yeah, definitely. But also, I'm just going to go back to living in the now, to also the past, because that's quite an interesting one as well. And I think I'm having quite a lot of clients coming through at the moment that are starting to deal with things that happened in the past. And this is where Reiki is really useful, because we can help with past work. And I think you do that in your day job, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm a time traveling expert, so yeah, let's get on this. I love it.
Yeah, well, I think that came really quite apparent to me when I started my Reiki training. And I'm seeing lots of clients now, because I think we've been in lockdown for quite a while.
It comes back again. It's like Candyman.
No, don't worry. We're not going to worry about that.
You're right. We're open today. We're not closed today.
Yeah, it's fine. We people have had time to think and sort of sit and realize that thoughts are coming into their minds. And one thing I found when I was doing my training was I had an episode of fear when I was traveling in Cambodia, and I hadn't realized how much I'd held it, because it had gone, we were okay, and I carried on my travels and we had the most amazing time. And it wasn't until later on in life, when certain things were happening, that I might worry about dying, that it connected when I was doing this deep healing, that actually that experience was there, and it had buried somewhere in here.
It's away in like the filing system, and your brain goes to fetch evidence of something.
And I hadn't dealt with the anxiety that had been created at that moment, so it was still there waiting to be
unlocked every now and again, and like, oh, we'll pop into the archives and get the old anxiety out.
Yeah. So I think it's it can be past as well, and sometimes we don't realize that. We just think, why are we getting so anxious? And it can be that there's something there that we haven't dealt with.
And it also comes, I mean, I've always said this as well, it comes from your upbringing a lot of the time as well. My dad is a world championship catastrophizer. So everything I witnessed as a child, it was like, oh, don't put that there, because then that'll do this and that'll set fire to that. So like, he was priming me to think ahead. Just trying to keep me safe, being a nice, looking after his children. But his natural, it's funny, as soon as I started to manage my anxiety well, and I think I've said it on here before, he came to visit the very next weekend when I'd had this eureka moment that it was me doing it. And I sat there and thought, oh my God, he's me. This is where this has come from. This guy, he was like, oh, don't put the toaster under there because the heat will melt the thing. And, all these kind of little things in his mind, he thought he was helping. But he's
just in case.
And it's so it comes from that as well, your past influences and your upbringing, and like you say, traumatic experiences you think you've completely got over, that you're holding on to somewhere deep inside, that you keep going back to as reference in your mind without really realizing subconsciously you're even doing it.
And not realizing it was a problem.
No, because you think it's over now, we're fine,
Yeah, it was great, we survived.
Here we are. But your brain then stores that a little bit like, I always take back to caveman times, it's like, don't go behind that bush because there's a saber-toothed tiger lives in that kind of area. It gets stored in the collective, and everyone's like, that bush there's dangerous. There's the evidence, we'll keep that. That's happening to you about something that you don't even know it's happened. You don't even know that bush exists, but it's right there. So anyway, that's me going off on a wobble. I always do. So you could back to like how you're controlling. So are there things you personally do in your daily routine that help you sort of control?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I don't want to over talk about Reiki too much, but I suppose it's become my life, part of my.
And it's good for people to have other ideas, because if there's something you do that someone can go, I'll try that, then
and I think that's the thing. There's lots, and I know you've said this as well before, there's so many things that people can try, that it's just great. I mean, crystals, you can have a crystal. People hold crystals all the time. I've got mine on my arm. You can keep them for comfort. There's essential oils. Orange oil's really good for anxiety. And again, something just to put on your hand to breathe in. You're controlling that moment as well as getting a benefit from an oil. But so when I started my training, Mikao Stui, who founded Reiki, set out the Reiki Precepts, and there are 5 that we say every day. And when you start training, you say them every single day. I remember them when they were on a post-it note on my mirror. So every time I woke up, that was what I said. And it's all about just for today. So I will start my day with, just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not anger. Just for today, I will be kind to everybody and every living creature, which makes you not stand on that ant or anything else that you might have done. Just for today, I'll be honest in everything I do. And just for today, I'll be grateful for everything I have. And they're great.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah, it just focuses you, totally focuses you. And but again, it's something that needs to be done on a regular basis. And maybe if you need to do it halfway through the day, I mean, it doesn't matter. But I'll never forget, one of the first things I really saw the impact of it was when I was starting the training and somebody cut up right in front of me in the car, quite dangerously. And in the past, I would have gone, "Wah! What are you doing that?" Yeah, beat my horn. I didn't even beat my horn because I just had already said, just for today, I'm not going to anger. And that car cutting up in front of me that then drove off, well, it wouldn't have made any difference. It just would have made me feel angry. So I didn't. I let it go. And
anger is not going to improve his driving or improve his opinion of driving. All it's going to do is make you feel bad.
Yeah, he's gone. He doesn't care.
Monkeys, does he? No.
Or she.
Yeah, there's me claiming that all men are bad drivers straight away. Did you see that? I was like, he doesn't care. I had this vision of this guy.
Absolutely. So, I think, and also not to worry, because, all of it, all of those things are so important, because there's no doubt every day something might get thrown at us, and it can blow us out of the, blow us off course. Whereas if we are really focused on, okay, well, that's happened, but I'm grateful for this, or I'm not going to worry right now. We don't let that anxiety start but what if this happens tomorrow?
It's what I like about it is, and I'm going to ask you to repeat it one more time because I think people should write this down. It's got that almost just for today is the magic bit. You're living in the moment. You're not saying, I am going to be a wonderful person forever and henceforth. You are saying, I'm going to deal with this chunk of time that I'm currently in and do things in that chunk. And that is amazing. I love that. Yeah. I've never heard it before. I'm very excited by it.
Oh, well, it's what, I think also it's about allowing people just to be, because sometimes with the working world, it's the anxiety. I specialize as well in fertility, and, the anxiety that comes with that is immense.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The what if not. And it's very difficult to do when you're on that journey, but to have those moments, if you can find them, of, well, just for today, I'm going to focus on me and what I'm doing. And I'm not going to worry about that. Because again, the stress and anxiety.
Stress and anxiety is not going to help the situation anyway. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So yeah, it helps me.
It's also that brilliant tenet that if you didn't do it today and you felt like you failed in some way or didn't achieve the goal you were trying to achieve, tomorrow, just for today, it starts again. It's like oh wow, this is blowing my mind, Ali. I'm loving it. I get my clients to have like a moment for themselves in the morning where they project forward to how they want to be, and almost that kind of programming your subconscious to what you want to achieve. But that is an extra level to it, because you're almost saying, in this block of time, I'm going to achieve. I'm not overstretching. And actually, even you're not looking forward in any way. It's just now. And it's just now. Wow.
And it's also, I think as well, lots of people, like what you've just said about you're going to achieve. If we're sort of setting ourselves up for anxiety sometimes with that, because what if I don't? And then you've got something that you're going to achieve X, Y, and Z today. And we'll go back to that to-do list. I'm going to do those 3 things today and that's it. But then all of a sudden something's happened. I've got a phone call and I've got to go somewhere else. So I'm not going to get number 3 done. Well, actually, it doesn't matter, because just for today, I'm not going to worry. And if you have those sort of focuses, it doesn't matter. And once you start doing things like that, and I know from my working world that I used to have to-do lists like this, and it was like, midnight, I'd still be like, I still need to do this. But actually, once I taught myself, and this was before I even started Reiki, this was in my sales career, Actually, if I only do those 3, let's see what happens if I don't get to those. And you soon work it out that the world doesn't end, it doesn't crash, and it's all right. And so then it's getting comfortable with that. You're taking that pressure away because it isn't there. It's just what we are creating. And so, yeah, just for today is quite important.
And is there like a sort of thing that's called like the 5 whatevers? Is there like an
Reiki Precepts?
The Reiki Precepts. So if
yeah.
anyone's listening who wants to have a re-look at them, they can look up the Reiki Precepts. Which
Absolutely. Google it, and there'll be loads of Reiki masters that will have slightly different versions as well, but with the same principles.
You can kind of do it where it works for you and whatever resonates with you, really, I suppose, whichever one you pick, your favourite version.
Absolutely. And, it might be that I might have a client here and I might get them just to focus on one, because if they are a real, if worry is taking over their lives, then you just focus on that. If they're feeling like they can't achieve anything, then it's just for today. I'll be grateful for everything I have. Loads of people talk about gratitude lists. And, again, I think all those things are great, but to do a gratitude list, I haven't done it yet. Well, it doesn't matter,
I've got to do
it's just for today to be grateful.
Mental health better, but I forgot to do my journaling, so I'm putting pressure on myself. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like a cycle almost, that you beat yourself up for not doing the thing that was supposed to be good for your mental health in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a trap that we can all fall into. Okay, moving away a little bit. Are there a couple of people you'd like to say thank you to on this public forum almost, who've helped you in either your career or your life in dealing with these kind of things, or learning things, maybe Reiki teacher or whatever, anyone like that?
Oh, wow, gosh. That's a difficult one. Because
no one in particular.
I'd probably say thanks to everybody, because everyone I've met, whether it's been a great experience or not, has led me to where I am now. So
that's great.
Yeah, there's millions, isn't there? There's obviously key people that are going to hang out. I mean, my dad inspired me to travel. My mum inspired me to read. My husband has supported me, and the kids, and my sister, who wasn't really into Reiki and things like that. She was the one that said she was doing a Reiki course, and I was like, what? If she's doing that, I need to do it. So,
if of all people, yeah.
It really was. And now she's really wonderfully spiritual and connected to energy as well. So everybody that's helped guide you, I suppose.
Wow, that's cool. Alrighty. I'm a big reader. And I presume you are too, because anyone who's delving into their own sort of brain and other people's brains read a lot. Is there one book that you would say is your sort of Bible, or your book you would recommend to everyone to read?
Oh, that's an interesting question too.
Yes, I like to fire interesting questions at
you. Might not get the answer you were looking for here.
Oh no, it's fine.
I mean, I teach Reiki as well, and I have people say to me, what book should I read? What book should I read? And I'll say, right, well, there's these books, but I haven't read any of them fully.
Right, okay.
And I find that there are loads of books out there, and there are loads of self-help books out there. But again, everybody's different.
Ones they push in your mind might be the different ones that someone else's.
Absolutely. And it might just be that there's 1 or 2 chapters from a book that will help you, and then you put it down. Again, it's that whole thing was, well, if I don't read the whole of this book, I'm not going to get the benefit. Well, actually, yes, I'm fine. Because if I just read,
I'm not going to get to the end of the solution. Like the magic will be in the process, and if I don't fulfill the whole process, I'm not going to get the magic of the book.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, when I get, I mean, I read a book when I was in the sales and marketing world called From Good to Great. And it was an interesting one, because that was all about the business world. But what it actually really focused on was trying to do one thing great, not 100 things good. And I like that, because, again, it's that pressure of whether you're working or running a household or just living, rather than trying to do everything, just do one thing and focus on that. And I suppose that then brings back to just for today, just for that one thing, because nothing else really, it's not the end of the world.
I love that you're, you know, we mentioned holistic. You're living that holistic. It runs through your whole thing. It's like the Reiki principles are running through your choice of book and your choice of the way you read a book. And I love this. It's a real. I don't know. It's refreshing that someone is living their principles quite like that. I quite like it. Well done.
I thought it gets to a point when I read a book and I put myself under pressure, thinking I need to read these, and I probably over the last 3 months I might have bought 8 books, probably read one of them from front to back, and that was probably a very easy reading chick flick novel, or I can't remember what the genre was, but I know I've read one book.
You've got to get recommending. I recommend this book here to everyone. Yeah. Right up, brilliant.
But I've got loads of others. I think I bought The Magic. I think I bought The Secret, which I've dipped in and out of. The Chimp Paradox.
I bet you've got Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's like the.
Absolutely, and I can tell you, I've not read it all.
I use that like an oracle. I just open it and read today's page, and it's that kind of like, it really is brilliant for that. And it comes up a lot on this podcast. People like mention it because it's like, you just open it up and go, oh, there's a lesson for today, you know.
Well, then I shall take that recommendation and I will pick it back up, because it is actually in my bedside table, I think, as it stands.
I read it every now and again just to cheer me up. Okie dokie, talking to cheer us up, I've got my little, I do like to sort of change the gear a little bit, make a bit of fun. So our next question is, what's your favourite word and your least favourite word?
Oh, favourite word, probably, happiness.
You see, good, that's a good one. And your least favourite, go on.
What's my least favourite word?
Bit of few, mate. What's that one? Hate.
Hate, yeah, that's not a very nice word. When it comes into things, I suppose. I've got a few least favourite words, but I can't say them.
Oh, really? Oh, like really naughty ones that you're not allowed to say in public. Yeah, I'm not overly keen on those. And when my kids say, "Oh, I hate that," I'm like, really? Like, you genuinely really loathe it from your soul? Because kids throw hate around a lot. Oh, I hate Clara from class 3 or whatever. Yeah, she's horrible. And you're like, really though? I mean, do you actually hate this person, or you just, you don't agree with them, or you dislike something you've done today? And it's hate is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And
but I don't think I've necessarily got a least favorite word, because I think words are good, aren't they, to use describing everything. But yeah.
I mean, moist's made an appearance quite a lot. People really don't like that word.
Which one?
Moist.
Oh, okay.
People really dislike it. I think it just, it just doesn't sound great. But anyway, okay, talk about things we don't like. I've stolen a little bit from Greg James on Radio 1, he's got a thing called Unpopular Opinions, which I found hilarious. I thought it was great. My unpopular opinions are, for example, Bryan Adams is an abomination, should be deleted from the world, can't stand his music, don't know why, totally irrational. I think it's Robin Hood, I'm from Nottingham, and I think it stayed with me. And also singing.
Love that film.
Oh, I just can't be dealing with it. I'm from Nottingham. We don't talk like that. We don't live like that. What's going on? And and then that song was #1 for like my entire teenage years. And I'm like, come on.
It was a very long time.
So yeah, I think that's probably what stuck with me. And singing in Disney movies drive me crazy. Can't stand Disney singing. Don't know why. Just gets under my skin. So is there anything that is really popular that actually you hate, in inverted commas, or don't like?
Oh, YouTube videos, probably.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. But the ones that my children listen to, which might be because they're not bad, but just because they are the same voice continuously.
Mean, what are these people doing? They're getting paid for this as well. I don't get it. You're right.
And I think that it's dull and it's boring and it doesn't interest me at all. And I see lots of
things. Like, what's that about? You watch kids unwrap things. Like, there's videos of people unboxing stuff on YouTube, and like they.
I would rather read a book from front to back.
There you go. But you're right. Kids' YouTube videos are like, my kids watch other kids playing games they enjoy playing. And I'm like, why don't you play the game yourself? What?
Yeah, why not? And then they make money from the toys that they've unwrapped, which is a lot of plastic, which also frustrates me.
So yeah, YouTube in general, just nuke it.
That would be a very unpopular opinion.
But it's true. But like, you're right. There's people making money. Like, oh, he's a YouTube celeb. Like, you watch these, like, I don't know, dancing with, on ice with the stars, cooking cakes, and they're like, oh, it's such and such. Like, who's he? Oh, who's she? And it's like, oh, they're a YouTube star. Really? I've never heard of them. Like, celebrity? What? But yeah, you're right. YouTube videos are, yeah, I would send them into room 101 for sure. Absolutely.
Any of the kids ones, I know there's a lot of other great stuff out there, and lots of good meditations, in fact. So
being a guitarist, I'm pretty sad. I watch guitarists buy guitars and talk about guitars. So actually, am I as bad as my children? Probably.
Well, they probably want to put your YouTube videos in the bin as you want to do theirs.
You're right. But yeah, there are some that are just inane, and I can completely understand. And they have that voice like, "Hey guys," and you're like, "Oh,
they put it on again."
That generic voice that they all do. Don't do it. Please don't do it.
Oh, but they love it. They love it.
Talking about the past, because again, I'm a bit of a fan of changing your past. And is there a piece of advice you'd like to give the 20-year-old you? Not suggesting you're over 20, by the way, but the 20-year-old you, if you could travel back and meet her and say, "Here's a bit of advice for life."
That question would be interesting if it was the 30-year-old, because I would say any advice I'd give back to myself would probably be go with the flow, do more grounding, live for today. Don't absorb people's negative energy. When I was in my 20s, I didn't ever absorb too much negative energy. I traveled the world a lot. I did everything I wanted to do. I really went with the flow. So yeah, that would be what I'd tell my 30-year-old, my 30s.
You'd change the date on my time machine and you'd nip to 30.
Yeah, sorry, just tweak it a bit.
Like last week or sometime like that. But yeah, it's that. You're right. When you're 20, I should change that question, because when you are 20, you do very much live in the moment. And you are very much like, sod it, let's go and do this, let's go and do that. It's about rekindling that and saying, you remember how that feels? Remember how it was? You weren't worried about it.
And not worrying. They're not worrying about things. I think as you get older, you learn more, so therefore there is more to worry about. And if you then let yourself worry about it, then there we go. We're back to the anxiety again.
Exactly. And I think your responsibilities are probably more when you're 30. So you can't just chuck everything and go traveling to Cambodia or whatever, but you can live in a similar way. And actually your kids would thoroughly enjoy living in that way, because they are young people and they enjoy that kind of spontaneity and doing. So yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that again, you're changing all my questions here. I quite like this. Sorry, I've ruined your podcast. I'm not going to yet. We're heading to my last few questions here. Is there one question that you would have liked me to ask you that I haven't?
One question. Oh, I don't know. Maybe where and when, or do you know what? Probably how many people do you think have got anxiety? Which we sort of covered at the start, didn't we?
Hang on a moment then. So I've got an interesting question I've just thought of.
Yeah, how many people do you think have anxiety?
You can read my mind. That's really scary. How many people do you think have anxiety?
I think we said earlier, you know. Yeah, and I think it's a good question to ask everybody, because I think it makes it normal. And I think that's been something, you know, when we've talked for years about mental health, it's like, oh, shh.
Mental health.
Mental health, because it means we're all crazy. It's not. Mental health is what everybody has, and anxiety is acceptable. I see more and more male clients now, because it's acceptable. You know, we can talk about it. It's okay to be anxious, because that's what makes us human.
It's like if you said the word physical health, that'd be fine. As soon as you put the word mental health, even though it's the same meaning, because your mental health can be good. But people just see that stigma, or did do, possibly not quite as much anymore, like you say. But yeah, it's that kind of a sort of, straight jackets coming.
And they're totally and utterly interconnected, which, you know, is something I work on a lot. You know, physical and mental health are like that. Absolutely. You don't have one without the other. You know, if you have a physical pain, it affects you mentally. If you have a mental pain, it affects you physically. It's totally connected. No doubt about that.
Oh, I love this. Do you know what? I could talk to you for hours. Okay. We have a guest question, but before that, one of our guests, Christy Mims, asked the best question ever as a guest question, and it stayed in the podcast because it's that good. The Christy Mims memorial question is, what is the best 1980s film? Because it says a lot about a person, apparently.
Wow.
I'm throwing that one at you, but...
Only one?
Oh, yeah, you only have to pick one, but...
Well, I mean...
How sad was your face when you were allowed to pick one? You were like, oh... Devastated.
Well, I'm trying to think, which one did I watch more of and which one do I still watch? E.T.'s got to be up there. The Goonies. I mean, I love the Goonies.
Perennial visitors to this podcast, both those.
Raiders of the Lost Ark and Crocodile Dundee. I mean, even now in our household, we'll still do impressions and we'll still quote lines. Back to the Future. I mean, you must love that.
Absolutely. That's my favorite. One of my favorite. My absolute favorite is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, just because I watch it every Christmas and it's the most 80s thing ever. You've got the yuppies living next door. You've got Chevy Chase. You've got all these kind of silly just makes me feel 10 again. And it just, every Christmas, made my wife sit down and watch that. We can quote every line. It's just, but yeah, E.T. gets mentioned a lot. It's that kind of dreamy kind of world. And Back to the Future, yes. Goonies, they all get mentioned, but yeah, and then a lot of people go down the other route of like, well, 80s, what's the most 80s thing I can think of? St. Elmo's Fire, Breakfast Club, kind of, the look and the people, and it's at you, but yeah, it's a really good question because it's like, crikey, the 80s was amazing for films. But yes, that's
it makes you really think about them again, which again, that brings the happy memories.
Exactly. The thought brings the emotion and the emotion of happiness. That's why I love that question. It's just fun. So my last guest was a lady called Francesca Raffa, who is a lady who has a tea brand, which is great. She's meditation with tea. Amazing. Loved it.
Nice.
And she asked an awesome question. What did you daydream of as a child? Traveling. You just went to see the world.
100%.
And did you? I presume you did that. You went to Colombia. What was it? Cambodia. Sorry, Colombia.
Cambodia. Yeah. I'm waiting. I'm so close to getting to my 40th country. But so when I can get to traveling again, then that will be it. But yeah, my parents traveled a lot. My dad, he lived in Africa. My mum met him out there because they traveled. So I definitely was brought up with a travel bug. I think I was born with the travel bug. So I'd say that.
So what's going to be your 40th country?
Oh, it depends when we next go away. If probably it'll have to be somewhere in Europe.
Right. I just wonder if you've got it in mind, like for a celebration, like my 40th country will be or whatever. Or
No, I haven't, because I just want to keep traveling.
It could be anywhere.
Dad's done over 100 countries. Wow. So I've got some catching up to do.
I might sit down because I used to work in travel, so I used to travel a lot. So it might be interesting. I might sit down and work out how many I've done. I've never actually done that.
Yeah, and it's nice to do that because then you go back to all the places that you've been and visited to. So
those thoughts create those lovely emotions, and you feel good. And that's the secret. You know what? That's the secret to a lot of anxiety is creating the thoughts you want to have rather than the thoughts you don't. And this conversation has been a lot about that kind of thing. So it's over to you now. Who? My next guest, have you got a question you'd like to ask them? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, I've got one.
How many countries have you been to?
Side of things, just one. Traveling, I'm going to go with that theme as well, because it, like I just said, when you think back at where you've been, you get those emotions and feelings. So my question would be, where was it, the place or the country, where was it that you had the most eureka moment? Which place or country made you feel really happy and have that experience?
Mine would be the poor old island that's just had a volcano, La Palma. I went there like 3 or 4 years ago, and I've never really been a fan of like going to the Canary. I always saw the Canary Islands as like Tenerife, and you know what I mean? Like I saw it as like this package holiday kind of place. And La Palma is the most beautiful. I've never wanted to buy a house in a foreign country before.
Right.
You know, when you usually go on holiday, people go, "Oh, well, I always want to live here." That's never happened.
Yeah.
And La Palma, I was there and I was like, do you know what? This is a wonderful little place. It's got volcanoes and rainforests and waterfalls, and I'm like, it's got everything you'd want on a little island. And I'm like, so that was where I had the moment where I thought, I want to buy a house here, and that's never happened before, and that was weird. So that's on my vision board. My little house in La Palma is bang right there on my vision board.
Perfect.
Where was yours? Did you have a particular place that in mind when you?
Yeah, I think I would probably say it was standing on the middle of a glacier in New Zealand at the Fox Glacier.
Wow.
Was I remember we had to go through the rainforest and climbed up through there, and then we just stood at the start of the glacier, and as we looked up, it was just, I remember feeling so high and energized and connected, because this wonderful piece of the world that had been created by nature was in front of me, and it was just wow. So yeah,
isn't it funny how two things are very, like, you felt at one with the planet and was in the awe and the nature, whereas I was like, I felt at home and comfortable and safe, and the two, the both things have stayed with us, but they're so very different.
Yeah, and that's, everyone's different.
And isn't that lovely? Because it's nice. Oh, that's a great question. I'll be looking forward to asking that to people. So, very last question for you: how can people get in touch with you, find out more about you? Where's the best place to find all about Ali?
Well, Rebalance You, that's where I am. So I've got my Instagram, my Facebook, and my website, rebalanceyou.co.uk. So that's where I am. That's where I'm based, and you know, I do treatments at home. I do Zoom treatments, but I always love interaction on any social media. And we've also set up with Charlotte, who I know that you've had on the.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's a great Facebook group as well.
Yeah, Holistic Health 2021 we set up on Facebook, because we had met previously and we got together, and it was at lockdown, and we were like, how can we help people? What can we do ourselves to for our own mental health to be busy? So we set up this group, and it's there if anybody wants to join it. We do meditations, we do affirmations, we get people to offer advice, so it's there to help.
Absolutely. That's Holistic Health 2021. If you search on Facebook, you'll find that, and Rebalance You to find you everywhere else. Fab. Perfect. Honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out. We've had such a nice chat, and I like the way it's been a different podcast, but in a good way. It's been nice.
Oh, good.
I mean, the podcasts are always fun, relaxed and chatty, but there's been something more, I don't know, something more very honest about this one, and just like a nice conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bevan. Well, it's been lovely as well.
Thanks for coming along. Cheers.
Bye.